Remember that government sets the rules by which the market functions. We deregulated Wall Street, allowing Wall Street to engage in more and more excessive behavior. These are the financial sector wages relative to everyone else's. Does this graph look familiar? I mean, this is our bridge graph, our old inequality graph. It's the same pattern. And meanwhile, you've got many working people succumbing to this huge lie that government is bad, that the market is good, that everything government does works against you, and everything the market does helps you.
Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this food that's been placed before us. We ask you to bless it, bless the hands prepared it, bless it will strengthen our bodies. We ask a special blessing this day, Lord, for those that have no food. Bless them with comfort and hope.
Amen. Ooh, this looks good.
I am registered as a Republican.
Do you want some of this?
It probably has to do with our religion too. Okay, Mormons. The majority of the Mormons there are those rare Democrats, but the majority of them are Republicans.
Oh, I called them, but you know what it is? So
I don't look at myself as someone that's economically troubled, no way. But I am worried about my kids.
We have paid for doctor bills. We've paid for dental bills.
2 of my children right now do not have health insurance. Our kids without health care was a big turning point for us. That really got my attention. I am a power plant operator where I work the geysers. It's a renewable energy source. Calpine is a good company. They are.
So then why are they cutting back on people and cutting sick leave?
Well, the operation will be more profitable if they cut back on personnel. That's a given. I've always been pro-union from a philosophical standpoint. I consider myself part of the labor force. Therefore, I think labor needs a say. The company brought in anti-union consultants and put on a good campaign to counter the union.
Let me just say, I came here, some of you were still on the fence, some people walked out, there is tension in the air. The underlying reality is that if workers don't have power, if they don't have a voice, inevitably their wages and benefits start eroding. It happens inevitably.
Personally, I'm a proud Christian. I'm a proud Calpine employee. I think they treat me more fair than I should be treated.
If you have a company that is dependent on shareholders, there is growing and growing pressure on that company to show better and better profits and have higher share prices. That's just the way capitalism is. That's not bad. But what that means, inevitably, is that there's greater and greater pressure to push wages and benefits down to the minimum.
So you're a capitalist. I'm a capitalist. I say for these people making their millions, that's fantastic. I could have done the same thing if I went to school and had the brains for it. So I'm a laborer. And there's such a burden on the companies in the United States now that the cost of business drives them to go elsewhere.
But this, right now, is the richest country in the world, and we are richer than we've ever been. Believe me, we as a nation are doing great, and certain people in this country are doing better than anybody's ever done in the world, in world history.
it's not just Calpine. I took a $12 an hour cut in pay, okay? My benefits are going down.
And do twice the duties. I'll be running 2 plants instead of 1.
If you have $10 million, if you have $1 billion, why do you need that little bit that I have? Okay?
Big companies are designed not to generate good jobs in the United States. Big companies are designed to make profits.
And thanks to the members of the administration, Jeff and Cass and others that have worked.
This isn't a matter of fault. You know, the head of GE is on the President's Jobs Council.
I want to start off by thanking Jeff for his continued outstanding leadership of this Jobs Council.
Well, GE has been creating more jobs abroad than it's been creating jobs in the United States. So who is taking care of the American worker? Who is looking out for the American worker? As GE and other big companies and Wall Street and the very wealthy, who basically have capital all over the world, as they have more and more political power, who is actually working in a way in Washington and in state capitals that improves the well-being of the American workforce? The answer is nobody. So why didn't the nation respond to the Great Regression that started around 1980? Why didn't we take bold steps to make the economy continue to work for just about everyone? Because we figured out 3 ways to cope with flattening or declining incomes without reducing our relative standard of living. Remember, starting in the late 70s, the typical wage is flat. But a lot of people are buying. How did they do that? How does the middle class manage to keep on spending when wages are flat? The first coping mechanism, starting in the late 70s, is women go into paid work.
Tumble out of bed and I stumble to the kitchen, pour myself a cup of ambition and yawn and stretch and try to come to life.
Young mothers went into work in huge numbers. We haven't seen anything like it, a social revolution.
Traffic starts jumping with folks like me on the job from 9 to 5. Working 9 to 5, what a way to make
9 to 5. Dolly Parton, 1980. Dolly Parton, you know, she is only 5 feet tall. They didn't go to work because there were all these wonderful professional opportunities open to women. Some of them did, but that's not the major reason women went to work. They went to work mainly because they had to prop up family incomes that were dropping because the men in the family, their wages were going nowhere. But there's only a limit to how many young mothers can go into work. And so the second strategy used by the 1990s was that families, both men and women, worked longer hours.
Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living, barely getting by.
When I was Secretary of Labor, I remember looking at the data, and I was amazed. And then I'd go out into the field, and I'd go to various cities, and I'd talk with people, and people were working, you know, all hours. I mean, second jobs, third jobs, overtime. If they were professionals, billable hours coming out of their ears. We were working 300 hours a year more than the typical European. I mean, we were working harder than the industrious, enormously industrious Japanese. But there's a limit to how hard you can work. When those were exhausted, the third coping mechanism was borrowing, going into debt, which seemed easy because housing prices were going up.
For 13 years, Americans have enjoyed a housing boom, the longest ever.
This is a great time to buy a house in Delray Beach. You can make, if you have some cash, an unbelievable deal.
From the mid to late 90s onward, you have this huge rise in housing prices. People said, well, I can take out a loan against my home. I could use my home as collateral, or I can refinance my home. And that kept the middle class going. Homes were like piggy banks.
Americans have been using their home as an ATM, cashing out more than $500 billion in home equity from 2001 to 2005 to cover expenses like health costs, student debt, repairs, and credit cards.
We had a debt bubble prompted by middle-class America trying to maintain its living standard in the face of stagnant wages.